Hey y'all, it's Thursday, August 8th at 1:49 p.m. I guess I figured it was time I made this video for y'all. Um, I've been thinking a lot about what I wanted to say because I know that I'm going to say some things that some of y'all aren't going to like. And that's just kind of the way it goes, unfortunately. Um, and I'm making this video instead of telling the story over and over and over because it's really frustrating for me to try and tell a story and to constantly get interrupted with questions. So hopefully I'll be able to answer all of your questions. If you still have questions after watching this, that's fine. A few people for my last video told me that they didn't have the spoons to watch the whole thing, to get the whole story. And I don't really have the spoons to tell it over and over and over to each and every person. So if I don't give you an individualized response, I'm sorry. I'm only one person, and there are a lot of you. I know that you love me and you care for me and you're concerned and that you're worried, and I worried you all. And for that, I'm truly sorry. I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm just as good before this happened as I was after. In fact, I'm probably better. I just want to say right off the top so everybody knows, I am probably mentally doing better than I've been in a really long time. I'm in therapy, I'm on meds, I'm following the instructions of the folks who prescribed them, even though I'm not entirely keen upon the dosage that they want to be me on. They want me to be on, but I'll get to that because this is going to be a pretty big update. So I'd like for you to watch to the end. I mean, if you want to know what's going on with me, you'll watch. If you're not that interested, you're not that interested. You can fast forward. You do what you have to do to take care of you. I'm doing this because this is the best way to do this for me. And that's all we can do, right? Is do what's best for ourselves. So I know y'all want to hear the story of what happened. So I'm going to try to tell this as best as possible. Remember, I have ADHD. You guys have heard me tell stories before. You know how this is going to go. You have to be patient with me. Fast forward if you need to. Run it at a higher speed, whatever you need to do. This is my story, and this is how I'm telling it. So what happened was Thursday, I went to New Smyrna Beach with some friends. I had to drive from Jacksonville to Williston to pick up one friend, and then we drove to New Smyrna Beach to meet our other friend in a hotel room on the beach. We'd had plans for some partying. There were substances involved, but none of us got like really fucked up or anything. We were, we know what we're doing. So we spent some time at the pool, spent some time at the bar, spent some time in the room hanging out. There were 4 of us. Eventually, number 3 had to go home because they had to work the next day. That was sometime before midnight. And then person number 3 also had to go home because they had to work in the morning. So that was me and one other person. And we were just hanging out and having a good time. We'd eaten some mushrooms. I don't mind admitting it. If you know anything about mushroom dosages, I didn't even take a full dose. Okay. So I need y'all to know that I've eaten a lot of mushrooms at one time. Supposedly the amount to cause ego death. I don't know that I've experienced that, but that's irrelevant. I didn't take anywhere near that amount. I would say over the course of the whole night, and that's starting Thursday afternoon until the last time I took any mushrooms, which was I don't know, between 2 and 4 in the morning. I probably ate a total of 3 grams. That's pretty standard dose. Most people eat that all at once. I kind of spread it out over several hours. So after friend number 3 left, and it was just me and my other friend, we went and walked out on the beach. At the time, I was wearing, I meant to have this right here. I was wearing this hat. This hat, a rainbow string bikini, rainbow suspenders, and knee socks to go out on the beach. I know how that looks. I don't care. I was having fun. I was living my best life. I am a weirdo who likes wearing socks and hosiery in the ocean specifically. I don't know why. It's something I discovered a long, long time ago. And so I was wearing some socks and we went out walking on the beach. And there was a meteor shower Thursday night. It wasn't one of the peak nights. I'm not 100% sure which meteor shower it was. Somebody said it was the Perseids. I'm not sure. It doesn't matter. It wasn't a super frequent meteor shower. It was mostly, out of the corner of your eye, you kind of see them, and you really have to look up at the whole sky. And since we were right next to the ocean, some of the time we spent in the pool, like just leaning back, floating in the pool, looking up at the sky. And then, we decided to go out to the beach. At this time, when we went out to the beach, she and I, as soon as we got down to the beach, if you can imagine, here's the horizon, right? So beach, ocean, horizon. When we got down to the beach over here, which would have been south, we're facing east. South is that way. So facing east, probably about degrees above the horizon, there was a red streak. It was kind of hard to, it was only, short in the sky. It was hard to tell what it was. And she and I were checking it out and talking about it. And she thought it was one of those lanterns that you light up and goes off into the sky. And I'm like, no, there's no way, because this is like a straight line. It's not I've seen lots of those lanterns because they let them off at music festivals. So it wasn't one of those, because this is like I said, it was a straight line. And as we're watching, it slowly, I have no idea how long this took. It went from over here, slowly, all the way across the sky with this long ass streak. And because light is what it is, it was like kind of shimmery and it kind of went through colors. And it went all the way across the sky to about right here. And then there was haze at the horizon. It could have been clouds, I'm not really sure. And it went behind that, and we could still kind of see the glow a little bit, but it was mostly gone. And then not long before it went into the haze, there was like this rumble, and it sounded like thunder. It was really weird. I've never experienced anything like it, but in Florida, if there's thunder, it means there's lightning. So if there was a thunderstorm way off, I would have seen lightning, and there was nothing down the horizon. It was pretty clear. So my friend posited that it was a sonic boom from the meteorite entering the atmosphere. I don't know. It lasted for a while. There was a time I looked over at them and I'm like, you're seeing this, right? It's like not the mushrooms. We're both seeing this. And they were like, yeah. And it was kind of freaky, honestly, because it was so slow. It took the longest time to get across the sky. And at one point I'm like, is the world ending? Is that what's happening right now? Are we going to see lots of things raining down from the sky? Because you really had no idea. And that rumble, is indescribable. It's indescribable. It wasn't a boom like a sonic boom. It was a that got gradually louder and then died off. But there was like a little second one as well. So that ended, and we're like, wow, that was really fucking cool. My friend was getting tired, so they decided to go back to the room. Well, I had noticed there was a group of people out in the water, and it's late at night. It's probably 2 o'clock in the morning. Between 2 and 4. I honestly have no idea what time. They said they thought I left the room at 4 o'clock in the morning. I don't think it was quite that late, but it might have been. So, my friend decided that they were going to go back to the room. So I'm like, well, I'm going to go out and hang out with these people because I'm not tired and, I want to make some friends. So they went back to the room and I went out to the group of people. It was a group of 5 kids from the ages of 20 to 23. And so they were in the water probably up to here. So I approached them wearing this hat and a rainbow bikini and suspenders. It was dark, so they couldn't really see that. But I also had a fiber optic light whip, like draped around my neck, hanging down my body. So I went up to them and I'm like, hey, can I hang out with her? And they're like, yeah, come on up, blah, blah, blah. And they were just like, whoa, blah, 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 blah. You look so cool and everything. And I'm like, listen, I promise that I am real. Because, if I'd been out in the ocean at 2 o'clock in the morning and somebody like this walked up to me, I would think it was a hallucination as well. So I hung out with them for a little while, and they were skinny dipping, and they encouraged me to join them. So I took off my clothes and took them up to the beach, and my friend had come back out, and they stood with my clothes for a little while as I was out in the water frolicking with the kids. And then my friend had decided to go back inside. So me and this group of kids, we were in the water swimming and playing around for I don't know how long. It was at least an hour and a half that I was with them because it was quite a while. We were just talking and goofing around. They were all drunk. I had told them that I was on mushrooms, and they're like, oh, we wish. And I'm like, I've got some back in the room. And they're like, we'll buy some from you. And I'm like, listen, I'm not a drug dealer. I'm not trying to sell them. You can just have some if you want some. They never came back to the room with me, which is fine. They went back to their own hotel room. So I was with them for quite a while, and then they all went back inside. So I hung out by myself for a while, and then I went up to the beach and I gathered my wet clothes and I took them back to the room where my friend was getting ready to sleep. And I took some more mushrooms, just a couple more caps, just because I wanted some more visuals for the night sky. And I was naked, and I decided I wanted to go on an adventure. And my friend told me that I should take some clothes with me, and I decided I didn't want to. There wasn't anybody around. I was not in any danger. I felt completely safe. I mean, I was as safe there as I would have been anywhere else. And the ocean was so super calm. There was no undercurrent. There wasn't a riptide. I'm telling you, it was so calm. I have a good, healthy fear of the ocean. I have a good, healthy fear of sharks. So, I took all of those things into consideration. I also know that I'm not a very strong swimmer. So I would not have put myself out in that danger. The water was as safe as it could be. If I got attacked by a shark, I got attacked by a shark. That could happen at any time. I'm in the shark's house. The shark is hungry. The shark's going to bite me. But I wasn't really worried about it. So anyways, the shark would see the lights and be like, what the hell anyway? So I went back out onto the beach, and I was looking for somebody to be awake. Nobody was. So I walked up and down the beach by myself for a long time. And then I went in the water, and I was swimming all by myself in the ocean. and the moon rose, and she was this beautiful orange crescent come up over the horizon. And I was communing with the moon and the sky. I saw some more meteorites. Nothing like that one. They were just the typical ones. Just a pew, 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 barely missed them. I maybe saw another half dozen. It wasn't like super active, but there were a few. So just out there swimming in the ocean. I wished I had some company, but it really wasn't bad. It was just communing with nature. It was so peaceful and beautiful. And the sky, it was just me, the ocean, and the sky. And it was magical. And so, I'd been out there for a long, long time by myself. At one point, I was sitting at the edge of I was probably sitting in, I don't know, this deep of water, playing in the mud, and I'd covered my whole body, my hair, my face, smeared mud all over myself, gave myself a complete mud bath. And I was thinking, if anybody found me, they would just think I'm crazy. But yet, people go and spend hundreds of dollars to get mud baths. And here I was getting one for free. I mean, is the ocean nasty? If it's nasty, we did that, So, anywho, I was just having a great time. And, I'd been out there for quite a while, and I was a little bit tired, but not super tired. And I was starting to get hungry. I had my water bottle with me, by the way, because, I know it's important to stay hydrated. So I had my water bottle with me the whole time with fresh water. And so I was out there, and I knew it was late, and I was thinking about heading back to the room. And I saw the first bits of light come over the horizon. And I was like, well, I'll just stay and watch some of the sunrise. When I tell you, I've seen a lot of sunrises on the ocean. It's kind of a thing that we used to do. So we'd stay up all night long, go into the club or whatever we were doing, and then in the morning we'd drive to the beach and watch the sunrise. So I have lots of experience of doing this. Lots of experience of skinny dipping in the ocean also, by the way, for the record. And so I was watching the sunrise, and the thing that you have to remember is the crescent moon had risen and the sun rose right underneath, and it was me, and it was the ocean, it was the horizon, the moon, and then the sun. And it was one of the most magical experiences I've ever had in my life. The ocean wasn't like glass. It wasn't perfectly calm. There were some ripples. So you had the colors from the sky coming down onto the water, the pinks, the oranges, the yellows, mixing with the blue. And the thing is, I was in the middle of that. I was in the middle of that. There was quite a while I was in water deep enough where I was treading water. I couldn't touch the bottom. If y'all know anything about me, you know that typically that would freak me out because I'm afraid of the water. I had no fear in my heart whatsoever. I looked and saw this vast seascape and all of these colors, and they sparkled and danced. I saw at least, I don't know if it was the same pod or if it was two different pods, but I saw several dolphins out in the water. Like a pelican came and like swooped by within like feet of me. Fish were jumping out of the water, and I was just there, being alive and swimming, enjoying the sunset or the sunrise, and feeling the sun on my skin and watching the light come into the world. And for hours, I was facing the horizon. And that's all that existed, was me, the ocean, the horizon, and the sky for hours. And the sun was up. And I knew at some point I'd have to get out of the water. And I knew that there would probably be people on the beach. It wasn't a very populated beach. There wasn't a lot of traffic. I saw some people. And I had turned around and realized, there were people out there and they were going to see me. But I wasn't doing anything wrong. I was just naked. I was putting my natural body in a natural body of water. And while I was out there, part of what I was thinking is, right now, if I get out of this water, it's illegal. And I'm probably going to get arrested. In fact, when I left the hotel, my friend and I were talking, and they told me I should take some clothes. And I'm like, what's the worst that's going to happen? Nothing bad is going to happen to me. If I get arrested, I get arrested. I'll go to jail. Worst case scenario, you've got my key. You've got my car. You have to get to work. Get yourself to work. I'll figure it out. I'm a big girl. I've been around the block a few times. I'm not afraid. And, I know people are afraid of jail and cops and everything, and I'm just not afraid. Part of that is a huge amount of privilege. I recognize that. If I were a person of color, none of this would have happened. I would not have been out there because I would have known better, because that's dangerous. As it is, I'm a white woman, middle-aged. I'm queer. I'm obviously queer. But honestly, I have a level of privilege that allowed me to not be afraid. I wasn't afraid of the ocean. I wasn't afraid of that. So I started walking towards the hotel. I wasn't close up at the edge of the water where I'd be confronting people. I wasn't making a big scene. I was just walking back to my hotel. I was approached by a woman on, not a golf cart. They ride them on the beach. It's kind of like a golf cart. It had 4 seats. I don't know. Maybe it was a golf cart. Whatever. And she asked me how I was doing. I'm like, I'm doing fantastic. I'm having a beautiful day. And she said, do you have any clothes? And I'm like, I don't. They're in my room. And she said, well, I have to call someone. I said, you don't have to. And she says, no, I do. And I was like, well, if that's what you have to do, that's what you have to do. I have to do what I have to do. And I'm trying to get back to my hotel room. And so, she called. There was already a sheriff right there. So officer comes up and I take off my hat. I set down my light whip. I set down my water bottle. And I just stand there. It's obvious I am naked and unarmed. And the cop asks me, why are you naked? And I said, because I was born that way. And he said, well, you can't do that. And I looked down and I was like, well, I'm physically doing it right now. And he said, do you have any clothes with you? And I looked around and I'm like, no, I don't. And he's like, well, I'm going to take you to jail. And I'm like, my hotel's right up the road. I might not have said that. I don't remember exactly if I said, my hotel was right up the beach. I figure I would have, but honestly, I don't know for sure. And he said, well, I'm taking you to jail. And put me in handcuffs. Got some lovely bruises. Puts me in handcuffs behind my back. And, he's got a truck. And he wants me to get into the truck. And as I'm stepping towards the truck, he tells me to watch my head. So I'm ducking down and I'm looking down. And the thing is, I'm disabled. So I tell him that I'm disabled and I'm going to need assistance. And I said, how am I supposed to get in the truck? And he said, with your left foot, like an adult. So I'm looking down literally at my left foot. And what I'm thinking in my head is if I lift up my left foot and it's going to put all of my weight on my right leg and my right hip, I'm probably going to fall. And I'm trying to figure out how to explain this to the cop. And all he can do is yell at me to get in the car. And then he grabs me and tries to force me in the car. So at that point, I wasn't trying to help him anymore. He wasn't trying to help me. He said, I don't want to hurt you. I said, so don't. But he didn't care. I was trying to explain that I needed assistance to get into the truck. He wasn't hearing it. So he called another officer who, remember, I'm naked with my hands behind my back, and he's trying to shove me into the back seat of this truck. I've got sand on my legs, sand on my feet, and he's just trying to manhandle me and shove me in. It's not going to work. Even if I was trying to help him, there was no way for this situation to work for me to get in the car. Just physically, it wasn't possible. So he had another officer come in and drag me from the other side of the truck, to drag me in. And he was literally shoving me in. The thing is, my bare skin, which was wet on the leather seat, was catching as he was shoving me in. And then my handcuffs were getting caught against the seat belts, you know? So, yeah, it wasn't fun. And so I was literally in the car like this with my feet against the door because my back was stuck on the seat because I couldn't lift myself up, you know. And he just literally kept shoving me in. At one point, he was up between my legs and, you know, I am who I am. And I said, are you going to try to fuck me while you're down there? You know, because I mean, he was literally between my legs shoving me in the car, you know. So finally, he manages to get me in enough so that he can close the door. And I managed to get myself situated into a position. It wasn't comfortable in the back seat of the car. And then I was in the back seat of that truck there on the beach for quite a while. And you know, he was making calls, doing his things, whatever, getting information from the victim, who was the person in that cart who had to call on me. You know, he had to ask her, you know, to be the victim on the report. You know, she didn't want to. She told me she didn't want to. Like, we had like a little conversation before he came up, but I understand she had to do her job. I wasn't trying to get her in trouble. Wasn't trying to get anybody in trouble. I was just living my best life. Was it a stupid decision? Probably. Was I in my right mind? Yeah, I was. I thought out the consequences of my actions, and I accepted them. Maybe people think that's crazy. How many people make decisions every day in their lives without really thinking about the consequences? So, anyways, we sat on the beach for however long, and I told him, I'm like, you know, my roommate's going to be worried. She's right up the beach. This is the room. We've got the room to the key. And he did not care about any of that. He did not want to hear anything. So, you know, he's asking me for my information. And when I was thinking about this ahead of time, you know, I was thinking, if I got arrested, I just won't tell them anything. What are they going to do? I won't tell them anything. But, you know, that's dumb. So I gave him all of my information, answered absolutely all of his questions. I was calm. I wasn't belligerent, you know. But the longer I was in the backseat of the car, the more agitated I got. So I was fucking with the cop a little bit. I'm not even going to lie about it. You know, and so he took me. We didn't go to the jail right away. We went to some other building, and we sat there for like the longest time, still with me in handcuffs. And I told him that the handcuffs were uncomfortable, that my shoulder was dislocating. I once again told him, I said multiple times that I am disabled. He didn't ask me any questions about any of that because he didn't care. He didn't care. And so then I was telling him, you know, that I had to go to the bathroom. And he's like, well, can you hold it for a little while? I'm like, you know, I've been with you for however long now, and I haven't gone. So I kind of need to go. And he's like, well, you know, I have to call someone. I'm like, could you do that, please? You know, I have to go to the bathroom. And he told me that if I pissed on his back seat, that would be another charge added to the list of charges that I have. Oh, speaking of which, when we were talking about me being naked on the beach, he's like, you know, children can see you. And I'm like, there's nothing inherently wrong with a naked body. There's nothing sexual about a naked body. And he said something else. I'm like, you realize children have naked bodies. Children have naked bodies under their clothes. You have a naked body under your clothes. We all have naked bodies. There's nothing sexual about it. Of course, he doesn't agree with that, but that's okay. So, anyways, I had said, I need to pee. And so he didn't immediately call. He said he would have to call someone. And I'm like, yeah, you said that. Could you do that? Because I have to pee. So he called somebody and we waited. And it was at least 20 minutes before somebody showed up. And then they had to get me out of the car. And I'm naked. He had thrown a Mylar blanket over me because he thought I might be cold. I'm like, it's Florida. I'm not cold. My temperature is just fine, So they had to figure out how to get me out of the car, which was easier than getting me into the car, of course. But there was a female officer who was mostly nice. And, they wrapped me in this Mylar, and then I had to go in this building. The first bathroom we went to was locked, so we're standing waiting. And then we had to go to another bathroom, and then I went to another bathroom, and I peed with the door open. And then they adjusted my cuffs to be in front of me, finally. And then we rode to the jail. And went into jail, and he processed me, and they took my clothes, they took my bracelets, they took my nipple rings. I had to squat and cough. They gave me a pair of shorts and a t-shirt to wear, and some prison shoes, some terrible plastic flip-flop things. Slides, actually, they weren't flip-flops. And, and I was processed, and I was like, do I get a phone call? And so I got a phone call. I don't know if it's like this at other jails. I don't remember it being this way in Duval County, but that was 20 years ago when I got arrested last time for driving on a suspended license, by the way, because, I'm a big, dangerous criminal. So to make a phone call, you had to dial 1. And then you had to dial 1 for English. And then you had to listen to this menu that went endlessly about reporting sexual assault. You had to report blah, 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 blah. Press blah, blah, blah after the tone. And then the tone. And then there's a whole nother thing to report this, blah, 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 blah. Both of those options had to do with prison rape, jail rape, whatever, sexual abuse. At the very front end of the call. So you had to wait through all of that. And then you had to press 3 to make a call. And so then you're given other options. I had to enter in my 7-digit, I guess, inmate number or whatever, and then a 4-digit code, and then had to press the pound key. And the thing is, you don't get any margin of error. You don't get any time in between. You've got to, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, pound. If you misdial, you have to start over. And the thing is, I didn't have my glasses. I left them in the hotel room because it was dark and I wasn't going to be reading anything. So I was having a difficulty seeing the piece of paper with my number written on it. I had asked them to write it bigger and sharper. Instead, they had a trustee come over and help me do it. He was very sweet, very sympathetic. He, somebody who's been in there for presumably long enough to be trusted as a trustee, he's made these phone calls before. He's obviously assisted people. Even he had difficulty making these phone calls. So I made 3 phone calls to my husband, my best friend, and or did I make 2? It doesn't matter because I had to try to do it so many times. So I made phone calls. They didn't go through. Found out later the people on the other end weren't able to accept the calls. All they could do was hear my message. So here I am. I'm in jail. I don't have any ID. Don't have anything with me. I think it's kind of funny, actually. I'm not stressed. I'm not worried about it. I'm not in any danger. I don't fear for my safety. It's just a dumb thing. It's a dumb thing. I brought this on myself. I'm being punished. I deserve this. So, I'm just getting through it. So I told the cops, I can't get through to anybody. So what am I supposed to do? And their response was to keep trying. So I just sat there for a little while because I'd kind of run out of energy. I was tired. I'd been up all night long and I'd been swimming in the ocean and walking on the beach. I was tired. So I just didn't have the energy to fuck with it right then. So unbeknownst to me, my friend in the hotel room was working behind the scenes and had already gotten in touch with my husband and all of these things. So I had told them, the cops or whoever was working there, because one guy that was like processing me told me, he's like, don't worry, I'm not a cop, because he'd asked me if I was on any drugs, and I was like, well, I took a little bit of this, took a little bit of that, and he's like, I'm not a cop, and I was like, okay. So I had told them, when I was trying to make my phone calls, that I don't want anybody to bail me out because nobody could afford that. Nobody has the money to throw after my stupid mistake. And I knew that. So he's like, well, it's up to them. And I'm like, so I have no choice in this matter about getting bonded out. If somebody bonds me out, I have no choice. And they're like, exactly. So I was resigned to my fate. I went and sat back down watching the prison rape video and why it's bad and how to report it play over and over. And then I think the Olympics were on this other screen, and then there was a screen with my picture and my name and everybody else who had come in and was being processed and stuff. So I was just waiting, and not very long had passed, and they told me I was bonded out. And I asked who, and they said they couldn't tell me. And I'm like, so just anybody can bond me out? I'm like, it could be my violent husband who's going to beat the shit out of me when I get out, and I just have to go with them. And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, well, this isn't what I wanted. So now they sent me back over to the psych doctor again. And I tried to explain to her that nobody could afford to bail me out, that I was just going to get out of jail. And she said, you seem obsessed. And I'm like, oh, I'm livid. In this exact tone. I'm not raising my voice. I'm just like, I'm livid. And she's like, well, do you think you could calm down? I'm like, well, I'm pretty calm. And she asked me something else, and it kept going back and forth. And the whole time I wanted to be like, I'm calm, So I didn't think anything was wrong. So, I went back to my seat. And then a little while later, they called me over and said that I was being processed to go home. So they said they had to take me somewhere else to process me, to release me. So they put me in handcuffs, and they put me in the back of a truck in a cage box, whatever. It wasn't like the other vehicle I was in. This was a jail transport vehicle. I was in a box with bars and a light inside and handcuffed. And then they took me to another facility. And at the facility, they're making me take off my shirt and shorts and put on scrubs. And that's when I found out that I was staying because I had been Baker acted. Did they tell my husband that I'd been Baker acted? No. He drove from Jacksonville to the jail to pick me up, and then was told I wasn't there, and then he had to come find me. So they drug tested me. They also gave me a pregnancy test. They didn't ask, if I needed a pregnancy test. Apparently they just automatically do it. And I laughed, and I'm like, there's absolutely no way I'm pregnant. And she's like, how do you know? I'm like, I don't have a uterus. And I had told them the drugs that I had done. I had done some mushrooms. I did a tiny, tiny little bit of cocaine, like 2 tiny bumps for the second time in my entire life. And I had taken some ecstasy. I think I had like 2/4 of a tab and another half tablet. So like a whole ecstasy pill. Well, when they drug tested me, the only thing I tested positive for was THC, because You know, I've always got THC in my blood. Got to maintain my THC levels, you know, for lots of reasons. It doesn't matter why I consume cannabis. Um, so none of those other things showed up in my drug test. I was negative for everything. And I'm not pregnant either, by the way. So they sat me in the room and I was waiting to be processed. I was just waiting. Nobody would really tell me anything. I was going to be moved to a different room, and there was another person in there, and I was talking to them and telling them what happened. I was like, yeah, I was naked on the beach and blah, blah, blah. And she was like, what? And I'm like, yeah, I know, right? And I had said something about my husband, and she's like, yeah, your husband was here. My first thought was, the fuck do you know who my husband is, lady? Second thought is, he's in fucking Jacksonville. He's not here. And I was like, I don't think so. And she's like, no, tall guy in blue Mustang. I was like, yeah. She's like, oh, he was here. They didn't tell me that. Nobody there told me that. So I was moved to the crisis unit. I didn't know where I was. I had no idea where I was. Nobody told me. They didn't ask me any questions. They didn't ask me anything. They just locked me up. And so I was locked up. I was told I'd see a doctor in the morning. The nurse told me that they would probably let me go in the morning after I was evaluated. So I was in. What was I going to do? They gave me my pillows, like this thick. It's like plastic or vinyl or something. And, you know, shown to my room that I was sharing with 2 other women. And the bed, I went to jail once, and they had these things called boat beds. And they were these stackable plastic things that you threw a mattress on. And that's kind of like what this was, except it was, you know, probably about this deep or whatever, and it had some shelves. It was obviously intended for longer term stay. And they gave me 2 really itchy blankets. And then I was just left to do whatever. Sleep, watch TV, talk to the other people. I think I ended up going to bed because they were watching Artificial Intelligence. And I don't know if y'all know about that movie. That movie emotionally destroys me. So I'm thinking that's not a good movie to be showing in a psych ward, but whatever. So I went into the room and slept as much as I could. The scrubs were uncomfortable. They made me sweat. No matter what I could do, I could not get warm in that place because it was cold and it was humid. So it was constantly chilly. But, you know, I was in the bed. I laid on one blanket so I wouldn't have to lay on that plastic mattress. And I covered myself with the other blanket and huddled up, and I slept. You know, I slept as well as I could. And when I woke up, I was covered in sweat. It was cold and clammy and sweaty. My clothes were sticking to me. And got up, had breakfast. Breakfast was biscuits and gravy, and there was something else on the plate. I don't remember. The biscuits and gravy were decent. Whatever the other thing was, I didn't eat it. And I'd had the lunch the night before was a very, very sad chicken quarter, dark quarter, and some mushy green vegetables. I think they were supposed to be green beans, but they were just disgusting. And some rice that was dry and had like no flavor. I ate a couple of bites of the chicken and couldn't really eat anything else. So that was my dinner. And then next morning had breakfast. And then I think I'd started kind of talking to a couple people, but not really. And then I was called back to see the doctor. We'll call him Dr. Ponytail Dickhead. He wasn't actually a doctor. He was a nurse practitioner. I didn't see a doctor while I was in there. but nurse practitioners apparently count. So he sits me down and he talks to me and he asks me what happened. And I was very frustrated from the very beginning because he's asking me very basic questions. And I'm like, do you not have a file? Do you just walk in knowing absolutely nothing about me? And because of the kinds of questions he was asking me, I don't remember specifically what they were, but I feel like you should at least walk into this room knowing this information about me, you know? So, I'm answering his questions, and then he's asking me more in-depth questions. And as soon as I start talking, he starts talking over me, kept interrupting me, wasn't letting me finish. I was very frustrated by that. And of course, he's bringing up the thing about being naked and children seeing me. And I'm sorry, I will die on the hill that there's nothing wrong with children seeing naked people. I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't having sex. I wasn't being sexual. I was just being naked. The cop had said, "You were displaying your sexual organs." Really? No. Anywho, when I was telling someone about this, they thought that this decision was out of character because of how strongly I feel about consent. And that's a very, very good point. Those people on the beach did not consent to seeing me naked. And that could be, that is a consent violation. It is. But I'm a naked body. And I'm not ashamed of having a naked body, and I'm not ashamed of showing it. And if my naked body is triggering to somebody else, that's a problem that has nothing to do with me. That is society. There's nothing wrong with being naked in front of anybody. And I believe that. Is it against the law? Did I break the law? Abso-fucking-lutely. Abso-fucking-lutely. I don't feel bad about it. I don't feel like anybody was damaged or harmed by seeing a person walk naked on the beach. And if somebody was harmed by that, again, that's a problem way bigger than me. And that's a problem that needs to be fixed in society. And I'm not going to apologize and feel bad about it. So, anyway, Dr. Ponytail Dickhead, after not letting me speak for myself, decided that they were going to keep me for longer because I was having disorganized thoughts. So, as soon as he tells me they're keeping me there, he asks me, "Do you have any thoughts of harming yourself or others?" I told him that's a very unfair question right now. And then I said, no. I don't know how many times I told these people over the course of the weekend, I love my life. I have no desire to end it or to harm myself. I'm living my best life. I feel fine. Just because my decisions are questionable by others doesn't mean that they're wrong. And that's how I feel. I analyzed the situation based on the information I had, and I felt okay with it. Obviously, or I wouldn't have done it. So he said that I couldn't get out. So now I'm starting to feel a little agitated and upset. And as I came back, no, I don't think it was as I came back. It was later the evening. One of the nurses, who was really, really fucking sweet, she and I sat and talked for like 5 or 10 minutes. She agreed I didn't need to be there. Pretty much everybody agreed that I didn't need to be there and I shouldn't have been locked up. Except for Ponytail Dickhead, I guess. And whoever the cops that Baker acted me were. That's the thing that keeps, I was dangerous somehow. A naked woman, not screaming, yelling, having a fit, just having an opinion that didn't jive with theirs. So, anywho, she told me that the next day I would see the other doctor, who was really sweet, and she said she will listen to you and she'll probably let you out the next day. So I'm like, well, I'm in here. I might as well do what I need to do. And by this point, I'd already talked to people on the outside, and I was in a state of upset and agitation because I was locked up and I didn't have any fucking choices. So when I got in touch with my people, I probably said some things that were harsh, and I'm very sorry to anybody that I hurt with the things that I said. You have to understand, I was in a semi-volatile situation. You know, at that moment, I was not sure that I was going to be able to get out. I was told that they could only keep me for 72 hours unless they went before a judge and got a court order. I was in a position I didn't necessarily trust that I wasn't going to be able to get out. So anyway, she said that I would see someone the next day. So that was Sunday. Sunday rolls around and we're waiting. The doctor finally starts seeing people. By lunchtime, I still had not been seen. When we went to lunch, the lunch for Sunday was chili, and which the thought just kind of turned my stomach immediately. But then as soon as we walked into the lunchroom, all I could smell was that smell. And to me, it smelled like vomit. I had a very strong reaction. I'm like, I can't be in here. I have to get out of here. And I happened to see that doctor, and she's like, you know, I can't. I'm like, somebody needs to walk me back. And they're like, somebody's gonna, but I can't do it because I'm the doctor. And I'm like, well, I'll see you later. So when she came in not long after that, she's like, I'm not going to see you today. You're not on my team. And she was the only doctor there. So I had been lied to my face on multiple occasions. And so I spent that afternoon getting to know my fellow patients, inmates. We weren't in jail, but we felt like we were in jail. There weren't any activities in there. Let me step back. There were 3 beat up paperback novels. There were 2 single sheet search a word puzzles and 2 different patterns with like a handful of sheets each of like a stained glass coloring pattern thing. There weren't any writing utensils or markers or crayons or anything to do with those, but they were sitting there for us. And there was a puzzle, probably a 100-piece puzzle, maybe 200-piece, I don't know. It had 17 cats on it. That's all I knew about it. And then there was a TV. So we could watch TV or we could sleep. A lot of people slept most of the time. There was one girl in there. She'd been in there the whole time. I saw her for maybe a total of 5 minutes, and the rest of the time she was sleeping, other than meals. She didn't come out for all the meals, but she came out for a couple of them. She didn't talk to anybody. She sat by herself. Most of the people didn't talk to anybody. They sat by themselves. And I found out there were multiple people there that had been Baker acted. And one of them, their 72 hours, well, actually a couple of them, their 72 hours were up on Sunday. And they're like, we're going to get out today. But they don't release anybody on Sunday. So word to the wise, if you're going to get Baker acted, don't do it on a weekend because you're going to be in there for longer than 72 hours. So it was boring. I slept a lot. I was uncomfortable. Was it completely miserable? No. I would have rather gone to jail Because if I would have been in jail, I was there because I did a crime. You know, I knew that I would get out. If I'd gone to jail, non-violent criminal without a record, and I hadn't been acting up or anything, I would have gotten out the next afternoon. I would have had my first appearance in the morning, and we would have done our thing, and I would have been released on my own recognizance Friday afternoon. Instead, I was there until Monday. You know, and then, my sister had to come pick me up from Jacksonville. And then I had to go to Williston to get my car. All of that's my fault. That was my idiocy. Shouldn't have done this while I was out of town, I guess. Shouldn't have done this at all, according to some. You know, those hours that I spent in the ocean underneath the sky and with the horizon, I would never give that experience up for anything. I am really sorry that I upset people. I'm really sorry that I worried anyone. My mental health is the same as it has been for most of my adult life. It's had ups and it's had downs, but it's probably better now than it has ever been. I'm on an antidepressant. I'm on fluoxetine, 20 milligrams a day. I'm also on lamotrigine, fluoxetine is generic for Prozac. Lamotrigine is generic for Lamictal. That is a mood stabilizer. I've been on that for, I think, 3 weeks now. Wait, no, today's Thursday, 2.5 weeks. My dosage just doubled because apparently that's what it's supposed to do. I'm only at half the dosage they want me to be at. I'm not real keen about going up to that dosage because it makes me really sleepy. All I want to do all day is sleep. It's all I've wanted to do since I've got home is sleep. But instead, I've been, slowly cleaning up my life because I've been traveling for the last month and a half. So I'm a little bit disordered and dysregulated, to use some fun words for people, just because of the circumstances of my life for the last couple of months. I don't know if y'all remember, I went through something pretty major last month too. And so I'm going through some things. We're all going through some things. I feel like every person I know is barely holding it together. We're all doing the best that we can. And so many people have reached out to me. I love you all. Thank you so much for caring about me. Really, it means the world. When I was inside and when I was getting ready, do you have people? I'm like, oh, listen. I wish everyone had the support network that I do. I have never felt so loved and held and supported by the people in my life, by the people close to me, than ever before. I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that I am cared for. But I need y'all to not worry about me. I am 49 years old. I've been doing this a long time. I've been in this body of mine every minute of every day from the beginning. And you're gonna have to trust me. My decisions aren't going to make sense to many of you. I'm gonna do things that are wild and outrageous. I've always done things that are wild and outrageous. The fact that I've never been arrested before for indecent exposure, for being naked in public, it's just fucking chance. It's just luck of the draw. That's not the first time I was naked in public. It's not going to be the last time I was naked in public. It happens. I wasn't having sex on the beach in front of everybody. I wasn't soliciting. I wasn't injuring anyone. I wasn't even having anything to do with anyone. How did this become such a big deal? It's fucking ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Yes, it could have been much worse. Very bad things could have happened to me. Very bad things can happen to me at any moment of the day. I can trip in my house and crack my skull open, and then I'm dead on the floor for my husband to find. Every time I get in my vehicle, I take a risk. Every time I get in a plane, I take a risk. We all take risks every moment of every day. I analyzed my decision and accepted the consequences. Did I know that I was going to be locked up and Baker acted? No. If I would have known that, would I have done something differently? It's hard to say. It's hard to say. I met some cool people on the inside. I made some new friends. Met some very strange people as well. People have some very interesting things to say and very interesting beliefs. And you know, we were in a psych ward. Were they crazy? Who am I to say? I have seen amazing, miraculous things that cannot be explained. I have been exposed to things that I never, ever, ever would have believed before. So I'm a person who is in a state of reevaluation of my beliefs and how I think about things in the universe. Because there are things that I didn't used to believe in. And I can't say I don't believe in those things anymore. But I'm okay. I'm no crazier now than I was before. I'm going to continue to be the Tonya you all know, hopefully love. If you can't handle the ride, you're welcome to get off at any time. You're here by choice. I'm glad that you're here. I'm really glad to have you on this journey with me because it's fun. Life is great. Life is a big fucking experiment, y'all. I'm in my fuck around and find out phase of life. I wanted to know what would happen. I found out what would happen. It's not a bad thing. It's an experience. It's a story. And I've got lots of them. And I'm going to be putting all of that to use. Guys, keep watching me. There are big things coming for me. And whether you think that's crazy, whether you encourage me or support me, I have to let you know I'm going to do what I'm going to do because this is my life to live. And I do think about the effects my actions have on others. I think about it all the time. And just because I make a decision to take an action that might have an adverse effect on someone else, I'm never acting out of malicious intent. I'm never acting to harm anyone. All of these decisions, all of these choices are about me experiencing my life in the way that I want to experience it. Because it's my choice to do that. And anytime I run up against something where I don't have a choice, that's when I start to have problems. That's what makes me crazy. But I don't think I'm any crazier than anybody else. I'm certainly no crazier than I was before. I haven't had some kind of breakdown. If I had a breakdown, if I am having a breakdown, that breakdown started in 2016 and has continued. Started in 2016. We all know all of the things that happened in 2016 and every year afterwards. The pandemic happened. I left my full-time job because I was recruited by somebody who said that they cared about me and wanted what was best for me and was encouraging me to spread my wings. So I left my full-time job and became a bookkeeper. Turns out that person was a liar. And so I got a second bookkeeping job. Things happened with that first bookkeeping job, and it did some damage to me. It did some huge emotional, mental, spiritual damage to me, knowing that somebody who I trusted, somebody who claimed to have loved me, the things that they have done and said about me are not from love at all. But that's fine. So I lost that job. It took the heart out of me for bookkeeping. So gradually I stopped doing that. And now I'm in a place, 49 years old, need to work. I need to earn a living. Earn a living. Have you ever thought about that phrase? Why do we have to earn a living? So dumb. Humans have made things so fucking complicated. When I was in the ocean, knowing that I was probably going to get arrested for enjoying nature naturally, I remember thinking, as I was looking out at the horizon, how 10,000 years ago I could have been there with my tribe, my people, children, naked, possibly, in the water, enjoying this wonderful, beautiful, natural experience that almost nobody takes the time to appreciate. And I was thinking about how 10,000 years ago, this wouldn't have been illegal. This wouldn't have been wrong. I would have been joined. People would have been celebrating the sun. Maybe we would have been worshiping the sun. I don't know. I felt like I communed with the universe, with the divine, while I was out there. I was working some magic. Just me and the ocean and the horizon and the heavenly bodies in the sky. I was working some magic for this world, is what I was doing. Does that make me crazy? I guess we'll see. But I was thinking the crazy people were the ones behind me, sleeping, the people who had to get up and go pay bills, people who are trapped in this system that we've trapped ourselves in. We've all done it to ourselves. Humans have really fucked things up and made it really complicated for everyone else. And we continue to do that to each other over and over. But I'm the crazy one. Even if I wanted to completely break away from society, from all of these stupid fucking rules we've made for each other, there's no way for me to do that, is there? There's no way for me to get away and get off the grid and go back to nature, is there? Because it's probably illegal or probably cost money. Everything costs money. That's what my biggest problem is. I don't have any money. What do I have to do to get money? I have to get a job. What kind of job am I going to get? First of all, 49 years old. I have an associate's degree, but it's like a high school diploma. You really need a bachelor's degree to do anything now. But I have $46,000 of student loan debt for my associate's degree. So I'm not going back to school anytime soon. So I should get a job, which means that I have to send out resumes, hundreds of resumes to all of these people who say that they're hiring. But as a lot of you know, positions are posted that aren't actually available. That's a real thing that happens. So I'm supposed to send out a bunch of resumes, and then if I get acknowledged, fill out an application with all of the information from my resume and a cover letter. That's all of these things are supposed to be individualized for every position that you apply for. So you go through all of this over and over and over and over, and you wait. And maybe you get some interviews, and you might have interviews that you think are great. You feel like, I've got this job. I am fucking hired. Great rapport. We smiled. It was great. It was a wonderful interview. At the end of the interview, you ask them, am I going to hear back from you either way? Yes, definitely. Even if we go with someone else, we will contact you. And then there are crickets, and you never hear from them ever again. Over and over and over. In 2013, the last time I left a full-time job to make a change, because I was miserable at that job. I spent the next 3.5 years looking for another full-time job. During those 3 years, I had literally the worst employment experiences of my life. And it almost broke me. That's how I ended up on antidepressants. Because I saw where my mental health was going, and it was going down the drain. Thankfully, I found a job, and it was a good job, and I was there 4.5 years. And I probably never should have left that job. But I took a chance on trying to do something different for my future, to try and take control over what I was doing. So I stepped out of the machine. And I can't go back. I can't do that to myself. I refuse to try and sell myself over and over and over and tell those people that I am worthy of their time, that I am an asset to their company. I can't do that anymore. Every employment experience I've ever had since I started working the day before my 18th birthday, every single work situation I've ever had has been a net negative. And I'm sure that's how most people's are. You know, most of us, we don't work because we want to work. We work because we have to. Because we have to. Because we're trapped in this system. I didn't choose to be born. I didn't choose to be born in the state of Florida to a single mom, to a teenage mom. I'm sorry, not a single mom, a teenage mom. I didn't choose that. I didn't choose to be born into a country formed on puritanical ideas, where people aren't free to love as they choose to love and live their lives. I didn't choose any of that. I'm stuck here. Could I leave? Could I go somewhere else? Yeah, if I had money to do that. It takes a lot to uproot your life. I know, I've done it many times. Many, many times. But I'm still here. I'm still doing it. Am I crazy? Who's to say? Are you crazy? Anywho, I guess I'm done rambling. I did actually prepare a statement yesterday because I was trying to think about what I wanted to say. And so I wrote a little something. And if you've stuck around this long, I appreciate you. Thank you. It really means a lot to me that you care about me and that you love me and that you worry about me. I don't want to hear about people worrying about me anymore. I worry about every one of you. Every one of you. I'm worried about you because I love you and I care about you. But you know what? I'm not constantly telling you that I'm worried about you. I'm not constantly telling you that I'm concerned about you because that makes you question your own judgment. And I'm tired of doing that. I'm not questioning myself anymore. I know what I want to do. And I'm going to do my best to get there. Or I'm going to die trying. Anywho. So this is a message I crafted for people. I hope it doesn't. I try really hard not to hurt anybody's feelings with the things that I say. I never intend to hurt anyone. Ever. Because every time I hurt someone else, it hurts me. And why would I want to do that? Anywho. Here is my statement. It took a lot of time to write this yesterday. You want to know how you can help me. You can listen to me. I mean truly listen to me. Without interruption. All out. I didn't edit my document. Without interruption. Ask me questions and actually listen to the answers. I always choose my words very carefully. Very, very carefully. That's why I prefer written communication. My whole life I have been misunderstood. No matter what I do, no matter how hard I try to express myself clearly, I've never felt like anybody really truly understands. And that's hard. It sucks. It's incredibly fucking lonely. I feel like my whole life I've been shouting to be heard, shouting to be recognized, shouting to be acknowledged. Nobody knows me better than I know me. I mean, I've lived in this body every second of every day since April 7th, 1975 at 2:22 p.m. I pay attention to my body. I pay attention to my mind. I pay attention to my heart. I pay attention to my soul. I am always with me. If you really want to help me, you'll trust that I know what I'm doing. You'll acknowledge that while it might not make sense to you, I do have a plan in my head. And you'll support and encourage me. I've always had a different way of doing things. Once upon a time when I was a kid, I was called a genius for that. I was told that I had a lot of potential. Have I somehow lost that? Did it all evaporate because I didn't go to school and get a bunch of letters behind my name? You know what? Maybe I'm not okay. But that's okay because I've never been okay. Is there something in me that needs to be fixed? Is there something that's broken, that's damaged? Probably. I mean, don't we all have those things? Aren't we all barely holding it together? You are all worried about me. I'm worried about you. We worry about each other because we love each other and we care. But telling someone you're worried about them can be very damaging because it makes me feel like I'm doing something wrong, like I'm not taking care of myself to the best of my ability. I'm pretty good at taking care of myself. I'm pretty good at taking care of other people too because I've always done it. So please, just trust me. If I need help, if I need advice, I ask for it. Other than that, I don't want it. It's my life, you guys. And I feel pretty good about it. And I'm glad that you're here. And let's continue to have fun together. I think that's all I've got to say. If you have thoughtful questions, if there's something I didn't answer, some detail I left out, I tried my best to give all of the details that I have. It's exhausting. It's funny. I had a great time. Wasn't all good, but nothing is all good all the time. You know, you got to take the bad with the good. All in all, I'm calling this a net positive. So now you know the rest of the story. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Follow me. There are lots of fun things coming up in my future. I want to keep sharing my adventures with y'all. I want you to participate. Let's do this. I'll talk to you later. Love ya, mean it.